How to file your taxes for free in Canada. Filing your own taxes can be a scary process, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You might feel anxious. What if you make a mistake and then have to deal with the CRA? I'm hoping to change all that with this video. I'm going to show you how quick and easy it can be to file your own taxes. You can be done within 20 to 30 minutes, collect your tax refund, and then not have to think about your taxes for another year. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can file your taxes whether you have a T4, a T4E, a T4A, RRSP deductions, medical, donations, tuition, and more. I'm also going to show you if you collected any of the government aid programs, how do you deal with that in your taxes? Ready to get started? Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to our channel. I'm your host Danish, and I make personal finance, investing, and real estate topics easy to understand and keep up with. Today I'll be showing you how you can prepare your taxes online using a cloud-based platform known as Simple Tax, formerly known as Simple Tax. So all you have to do is go to the website simpletax.ca and you'll be greeted with this home screen. And it'll actually let you know that Simple Tax is now Simple Tax. And the cost of the tax return is $0. Well, it's actually pay what you want. So if you want to pay $0, you can pay $0. Or if you want to pay whatever else, $5, $10 based on your filing experience, that is completely up to you. So it's free or not, totally your choice. My recommendation is if you found the platform to be easy to use, hassle-free, and you enjoyed the experience, maybe pay $5, $10, $15, $20, whatever you think that experience is worth. So what you're going to do is start or continue. In this case, you're going to go ahead and start a new 2020 return. It will then ask you, have you used Simple Tax in the past, or are you filing new with this platform for the first time? So let's go ahead and we're doing new. And because I already have a login set up, instead I'm going to go ahead and use this option. But again, go ahead and set up your email and password. Let's go ahead and log in. Okay, once you have logged in and your account is set up to go, this is what you're greeted with: your 2020 tax return. On the top, information about you over here. Because it's a cloud-based platform, whatever you type in, whatever information you're putting in, it saves as you go along. So you'll see the save sign right here. So you never have to worry, oh, I didn't save that, or I didn't save this. If your internet access was to go off, again, everything is saved automatically as you go. This will be your menu bar where you can navigate through various parts of the tax return. And this is actually a live showing of what your potential refund or tax amount owing is based on the data you put in. So let's go ahead and start filling in some data. The name of the person filing this tax return is Shahrukh. Last name, Khan. Okay. You do need a social insurance number. Okay, now that I have a SIN number, and let's make Shahrukh Khan was born in 1980, Jan 1. Why not? What is your preferred language of communication? It's English. Is this return for a deceased individual? No, it's not. New for 2020 net file access code. For the 2020 tax year, prior to filing your tax return electronically, you will be asked to enter an access code. This code does not apply to you if you are filing your tax return for the first time. This unique access code can be found on your notice of assessment for a previous tax year. This is an 8-character access code made up of numbers and letters and is located on the right-hand side of your NOA. Based on the NOA you're looking at, the position of this code can vary. And on the paper version of your NOA, as well as the PDF, the access code is not labeled, but can be found directly underneath the date issued. If you are viewing your NOA in the My Account section or using the Express NOA certified tax software, the access code is found directly under the Notice Details box. You will have to enter your access code after your name, date of birth, and social insurance number. While this access code is not mandatory, if you do not enter your access code, you will not be able to use any information from your 2020 tax return when confirming your identity with the CRA. You will have to rely on other information for authentication purposes. So if you have your access code based on your NOA, that's great. If not, it's not the end of the world, and you can still use this platform to draft up your tax return. But I suggest that if you have your NOA from the past, go ahead, dig it up, and find your access code, just to make your life easier. Okay, let's put in the mailing address. Shahrukh Khan lives on, where does it live? 14 14 Isabel Street, City of Thunder Bay, Ontario. Shout out if you know where this is. Let me know in the comments if you've been here before. Let's put in the postal code. Anything with this asterisk sign is a mandatory field, whereas your home telephone number, again, it's not a mandatory field because it doesn't have that asterisk sign. Okay, in which province or territory did you live on December 31st? In this case, it's Ontario. If your province or territory of residence changed in 2020, this is where you would enter the date if you changed provinces. Is the home address the same as your mailing address? Yes, it is. Now this question here, you might notice, is it asking for the same thing? Which province or territory do you currently live? This is different than this question because it's saying on December 31st. Whereas this is asking where do you live right now? And the difference is that this selection is used to determine which provincial tax credits do you qualify for. Because wherever province you were in on December 31st, that province's tax credits will apply. So Shah Rukh Khan has not moved, he's still in Ontario. Next question, did you become a resident of Canada for tax purposes in 2020? If you select yes, it will ask you, do you agree that it is your responsibility to properly report your income, allowable credits, and deductions? This happens is that when you first come to Canada and it's your first year of filing, and if it's your first year of filing tax returns, your tax credits and deductions are prorated based on the amount of time you actually spent in the country and also based on your income level. So if it is your first year filing, you have just landed in Canada in 2020, my recommendation would be to seek a tax professional, a tax accountant, who can really help you guide things through. Because while you can use this to file it yourself, and if you are familiar with the tax system, then go ahead. But be sure that you understand that it is, like it says, it is your responsibility. So if you are uncomfortable at this point and it's your first year filing and you just immigrated to Canada, I suggest seeking professional help. In this case, Shah Rukh Khan has been here for a while, so he did not immigrate to Canada in 2020. So in this case, I'd say no. Next up, you and your family. What is your marital status on December 31st? In this case, Shah Rukh Khan is single. But if he was married, it'll ask you, do you want to prepare your returns together? So if you have a spouse who also wants to use simple tax or wealth simple tax, they can draft up their return and then you can combine the two tax and you can link the two returns together. So that way the software can automatically optimize and maximize your tax credits between each other. In this case, he's single. Did your marital status change? No, it did not. And do you have independence? No. But if you did, you would have to fill out your dependent section and enter the information like their name, relationship, date of birth, and net income, if any, because this will be used to calculate any further deductions or tax credits. And the cool thing about the software is that as you change the selections, whether you're selecting yes, no, or other options, it automatically populates the necessary forms you have to fill out. So just as I selected yes for dependents, I had to fill out your dependent section. In this case, he has no dependents. So that's a no. Moving along. Do you own or hold specified foreign property where the total cost of all such property at any time was more than $100,000 in 2020? So this just means if you hold any foreign property that's valued over $100,000, you have to hit yes. And if you do, you'll be required to fill out a T1135. If you don't, it's just hitting no. Did you dispose of your principal residence? Again, if you hit yes, it'll again automatically bring up this form for the sale of principal residence, where it'll ask you some basic questions about your sale, and you can go ahead and populate this form. In this case, there is no principal residence to dispose because Shah Rukh Khan is currently renting in Thunder Bay, and I'll show you why that's important. And later in the video, I'll go over in detail what renting does when you're filling out your taxes. Are you filing for the first time? No. Are you a Canadian citizen? Yes. And if you're not, then again, you can just move on to the next question. But if you are, so this means that you don't have to be a Canadian citizen to use this software platform. You can be a permanent resident. You can be a student on a visa. There's no limitation. If you're a citizen, they'll just ask you, as a citizen, do you authorize the Canada Revenue Agency to give your name, address, date of birth, and citizenship to Elections Canada to update the National Register of Elections? So it's up to you, yes or no. Totally your call. Are you registered with the Indian Act? No. Were you confined to a prison for a period of 90 days or more? No. Okay, the climate action incentive. Will you claim the climate action incentive, which is the carbon tax credit? Of course we will. And notice as soon as I hit yes, this refund already updated, showing me that I'm eligible for a $300 refund just for hitting yes to the climate action incentive. The Ontario Trillium benefit. Because I selected Ontario as my province of residence, I can fill out the Ontario Trillium benefit, which I'll do yes. And again, the form for the Trillium benefit automatically appears. Are you registered for the CRA? Yes. And if you're not, again, this is the option where you can set up an account with the CRA online, where you can see your TFSA contribution limit, where you can see your RRSP contribution limit online. You can see your notice of assessment online. It's really helpful if you do have your account set up, and this is your opportunity if you want to set up one right now. This account we've already set up, but if you haven't, you can just hit yes, sign me up, and then it'll ask you to hit the terms and conditions, and you can go through that process of setting yourself up. In this case, I'm already registered. Okay, now we can actually go ahead and start filling out the tax return. The first thing we're actually going to do is go ahead and do the climate action incentive before we get into the tax slips. You have 0 qualified dependents. Is this correct? Yes, it is. For the climate action incentive, you actually get a 10% additional credit if you live in a small or rural community. If you live in one of these regions, you do not qualify for this additional top-up. And because this residence isn't based in Thunder Bay, Shah Rukh Khan does not qualify. Ontario Trillium benefit. If at any point at time you're not sure what this tax credit is or what it's for, you can always hit this little question mark where it'll give you additional details on what criteria do you have to meet in order to qualify to claim this tax credit. In this case, to claim the Ontario Energy and Property Tax Credit, you have to rent or pay property tax for your principal residence for 2020, live in a student residence, live in a long-term care home, or lived on a reserve. So as I mentioned earlier, Shah Rukh Khan is currently renting in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and because he paid rent in 2020, he is eligible for this tax credit. Northern Ontario Energy Credit, if you live in one of these areas, you can actually qualify for an additional tax credit for either renting or paying property tax. So Shah Rukh Khan lives in Thunder Bay, and he paid rent, meaning he qualifies for this tax credit. So let's go ahead and do yes. And now it's going to ask you to fill out some information so it can determine how much do you qualify for this Ontario Trillium benefit. So how much did Shah Rukh Khan pay for rent for his principal residence? It was $12,000. $1,000 a month for 12 months. Any property tax? No. Any home energy costs? No. Amount paid for public or not-for-profit long-term care home? No. And do you live in a student residence? No. Would you like to receive your benefit in June 2022 instead of receiving a monthly starting July 2021? So this is your call. Do you want to receive your Ontario Trillium benefit as a lump sum in June 2022, or do you prefer to receive a monthly amount in July of 2021? Again, there's roughly a year of difference between the two. If you want to receive a lump sum in June 2022, select yes. If you rather have it monthly, then hit no. Declaration of principal residence. Again, enter the address of the property you've either paid your property tax for or the one that you're paying rent for. In this case, 14 Isabel Street. Here's my postal code and the number of months I paid rent or property tax, which is 12 months. I paid $12,000. And who's the landlord or municipality? Now, if Shah Rukh Khan was renting from a private owner, this is where their name goes, or if he's renting from the city of Thunder Bay, they would put in the name of the city. In this case, he's renting from Amir Khan. And that's it. That's all you have to do for your Ontario Trillium benefit. Now you'll notice that this refund did not actually change. Does that mean that Shah Rukh Khan is actually not eligible for the Ontario Trillium benefit? Not necessarily. What it means is that this form is just to determine your eligibility. The CRA will later determine, after you file your taxes, are you eligible for this tax credit? If you are, you will receive a separate payment in July or June based on your selection here, and this will be a separate tax credit apart from your income tax refund. This is just to determine your eligibility. Okay, now that we've filled out our climate action and our Trillium benefit, we can go ahead and start adding in our tax slips. The first tax slip is a T4. So in this search box, add something to your tax return. If you click on it, you'll get an exhaustive list of everything that you can actually add to your tax return. This could be very daunting if you're not sure how to prepare your taxes. But once you have all your tax slips, all you do is just punch in whatever tax slip you want to enter. In this case, it's a T4. And what I like about the software is that the way it's set up pretty much to look exactly like a tax slip. So all you have to do is grab your tax slip, look at the software, and start inputting in the data as you see on your tax slip. Let's put in our employer's name. Box number 10 is Ontario. Any exemptions? No. And if you're not sure what any of these boxes mean, if you hover over, it'll actually show you what that box is. So for example, box 14, employment income. 16, CPP contribution. If you have any QPP contributions, box 17. Box 18, EI premiums. So let's go ahead and start with box 14, $51,000. Box 16, $456.98. Box 18, $789.35. Next box up is box 22, box 52. And all I'm doing is I'm just looking at the boxes on my tax slips that have already been populated and just entering in that information into the software. It's really that easy. Now, you'll notice here it says other boxes. If you find there's boxes on your T4 at the bottom that are not on this default list, this is where you can enter in those boxes. So for example, I have box 34. What's box 34? It's the personal use of your employer's automobile. And it's $123. Now you'll notice that as I'm typing, it's also saying this amount is included in box 14. So this taxable benefit is actually already included in this $51,000. So if I enter it here, it's repetitive. Now, it doesn't mean if you enter it in here, it'll actually double count because the tax software is smart enough to know that if you put something in here and it's included in here, it will not actually add this in. So if I remove it, it's the same thing. Again, no impact. Right, you'll notice that my refund amount doesn't change. It's the same. So you know what, if you want, you can just leave it in if you're not too sure and let the software take care of it for you. Next box, box 40. Again, this is other taxable allowances or benefits. Same thing. It's already included in box 14. So I don't have to enter this information in if I don't want to. But if you rather just punch it in, let the software deal with it, totally your call. My refund is as is, whether they're here or whether they're not, there's no changes. And this is why I really like this using the software, because it updates in real time. So if I take out my employment income, I can see in real time what my refund looks like. And if there's something off, it'll alert you by putting a red box saying, okay, something looks off, you need to double check your amount. So let's put the income back in, and that red box goes away. And that's it. That's all you have to do for a T4. Next slip, T4E. If you collected EI, employment insurance, or if you collected maternity or paternal benefits, you will receive a T4E. And just like we did with the T4, all I'm doing is I'm going to take the information on my T4E and I'm going to input it into the software and match the boxes. Essentially, it's just a matching game. So in box 14, I have $23,521. Box 22, $1,075. And notice how after entering this tax slip, I actually have to owe taxes. And that's because when you're collecting employment insurance, maternity, or paternal benefits, typically very little tax is withheld on your payments. So when you actually receive all your payments and it comes to file your taxes, it's typically normal to have to pay a little bit of tax, because tax withheld at the source is typically not enough to cover all the taxes you have to pay on your income. And if you did receive a T4E, it'll actually ask you, is this maternity or paternal benefits? If it is, hit yes. If not, then just hit no. In this case, I'm going to select no because this is just based on regular employment insurance. And that's all there is for my T4E slip. Next slip is my T5. Again, same thing. I'm going to search for T5, investment income. So you'll receive this slip if you've received interest from a high interest savings account, or if you collected dividends based on one of your investments. So for example, if you have investments in like dividend stocks, you'll receive a T5 slip if you invested outside a tax sheltered account. So in this case, I received this T5 slip from RBC because I have a high interest savings account and I received a little bit of interest in 2020. Now, when you put in an amount in box 13, interest from Canadian sources, it'll ask you, what type of interest did you actually earn? In this case, because it's a high interest savings account, it was from a bank. Now, if this was a joint account that you and your spouse share, you can actually input that right here and say, is it 50-50, 100%, 75-25, and who do you actually share it with? That way, the tax software can allocate the correct amount of taxes and income to each individual spouse. And that's really it. I'm done with the T5. So I really hope you can sort of appreciate how quickly it is to input your data in the software, and how quickly you can actually do your taxes as long as you have all your tax slips. We've already entered 3 slips, and again, I'm just matching boxes to the software and inputting data. Nothing too complicated. What's the next slip? I have a T2202A, which is a tuition slip. So I'm going to search for that, T2202. And if you're in school or if you're taking any courses, you'll receive a T2202A based on the amount of tuition you paid. Were you a post-secondary student? Yes. And now we're going to enter the tuition fees we paid. There's 4 different boxes: name of the program, tuition fees, number of months part-time, number of months full-time. And if you take a look at the tax slip, it's actually labeled eligible tuition fees, part-time, full-time. So in this case, this is an MBA program. The tuition fees paid were $9,000. And was this full-time or part-time? This was 4 full months. This was 4 months full-time. And look, our tax owing has gone down because we're receiving a credit for the tuition we paid. Do you have a disability? Yes or no? Do you want to claim the Canada Training Credit? Again, yes or no? And if you're not sure what this is, if you click on this, you'll get a pop-up and it'll walk you through the details of what this is. This was actually a new tax credit that's available for courses taken in 2020 and subsequent tax years. Starting in 2019, an individual will be able to accumulate $250 in each year up to a maximum of $5,000 for this tax credit. In this case, if you select yes, 2020 Canada Training Credit Limit, and this will be on your notice of assessment. So based on your situation, select yes or no. In this case, we're going to go ahead and do no. Were you a post-secondary student in an earlier year? No, because this was the first year Mr. Shah Rukh Khan decided to go to university for his MBA. Next piece is the tuition transfer and carry forward. The software will allocate your tuition fees to offset any tax owing from your income based on what you put in here. If you have enough tuition fees to offset your income, they will all get used up. Now, for example, if you paid a lot of tuition fees and not enough income, what happens is that you actually have amount to carry forward. I've maxed out my refund, and now I can actually carry forward $31,000 in unused federal tuition amounts into future years. In this case, I only paid $9,000, so I have nothing left to carry forward. And there you go. That's the tuition tax credit. Let's go ahead and do an RRSP. The first thing you need to do before you do your RRSP is know your deduction limit, which can be found on your notice of assessment. You'll notice as you're filling out this tax software, not only do you need your tax slips, but it's also very convenient and handy if you have your notice of assessment from last year, because there's a whole host of deductions and annual limits that you can use for reference. In this case, the limit is $20,000. Did you make any RRSP contributions or have any transfers? Yes. There was a contribution made between March 3rd and December 31st of 2020. This was for my personal RRSP, and if I put in the amount, $1,845, you'll notice that now all of a sudden I'm in a tax refund position, because by contributing $1,845, I'm saving $547 in taxes. So I really like this aspect where as I'm punching in data, I can get in real time, is it a refund, am I owing, and as long as it's green, it's all good. Next piece, lifelong learning plan. Does your lifelong learning plan or home buyer's plan have a balance? If you've withdrawn money from your RRSP for a home buyer's plan, this is where you would select yes or no. So if you have, you can say yes, I have a balance in my home buyer's plan, and then you can input in the balance and the amount you have to repay. In this case, no. In a prior year, did you make and report but not deduct any RRSP contributions? What happens is, in the year you make your RRSP contribution, you have a choice. You can take that deduction that tax year, or you can carry forward that deduction into future years. So for example, if I decide to contribute $10,000 to my RRSP for the year 2020, I can take that deduction from my 2020 tax year or carry forward that $10,000 deduction into future years. Even though I've already made the contribution, I don't have to take that deduction. In this case, I have no prior deductions. And that's really it. That's all the tax steps that Mr. Shah Rukh Khan has for his tax return. But the one piece I did want to talk about is that what if you collected CERB in 2020? Where does that go? Well, if you collected CERB, you're going to receive a tax slip, a T4A, which will indicate how much CERB you've collected throughout 2020. And you can just punch in T4A here, and it'll actually give you a description of what a T4A is. This is for if you earn pension, annuity, scholarship, or COVID-19 benefits. That's where this goes. So again, if you have your T4A slip, just match the boxes, match it to your slip, and input in the data. In this case, Mr. Shah Rukh Khan has not collected any CERB in 2020, nor does he have any scholarships or pension. I don't need this section, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. Once you're done entering in all your tax slips, now you can go ahead and review, and the tax software will check and optimize your tax return for any errors or any issues it may find. Looks like it found a few things. Now, the thing is that they're not all errors. Some of them are just suggestions and reminders. So for example, this one, it's a reminder saying if you have not set up a direct deposit with a CRA, you can go ahead and you can set up a direct deposit to get your refund much faster. So I've already set up a direct deposit here, so no need for this. NetFile now accepts 2017 to 2020 returns. So what it's asking you is that if you have an older tax return that you have not submitted, you have to submit them in sequence. So if I didn't submit a tax return for 2019, I can't submit my 2020 until I submit my 2019 tax return. In this case, I have them all filed, and 2020 is my current tax filing year. So I'm not submitting any prior returns. So no. Are you sure you want to file your taxes without entering an access code? Again, it's that reminder saying if you have not entered your access code, do you want to enter it or do you want to proceed without it? Okay, so that's up to you. If you've moved, please change your address. Again, another helpful reminder, I have not moved. I don't need to change my address. I'm going to hit X out of this. If you have money from an RRSP that you took out, you should have a T4A slip. If not, go ahead, X that out. I'm going to X this out, and then let's go. Now, I can't actually submit this return because NetFile opens up February 22nd. So based on the time you watch this video, the system may have opened up. Or if you're just watching this just to get a feel for the tax return, then you'll have to come back and submit and wait for February 22nd. But you can populate a tax return if you've already received your slips. So that way when February 22nd rolls around, you can log in and just hit submit and you're done. Meanwhile, what you can do is you can review your tax return. So for example, here's a breakdown of how this 374 is actually calculated. I can see my employment income, interest, and just take a look at this to see if something looks off. Is there something that you don't recognize? Maybe you input it as a mistake that you need to take out. So this is where it's a good idea to check. The other thing is that you can actually see how taxes are calculated. Here's my taxable income. These are all my credits that I've actually inputted. Here's my net federal tax. This is the total tax that I have to pay. And this is how much tax I have paid. Along with the climate action incentive, I can actually get $374 back in my taxes. The other cool thing is that it'll actually show you what your 2021 RRSP contribution room is based on the information you've already inputted. So instead of waiting for your notice of assessment to come in after you file your tax return, you can already get an idea of what your next year's contribution room is. So you can go ahead and start contributing to your RRSP in 2021, knowing this amount and how much you can actually contribute. And if you prefer to save a PDF copy or actually look at the tax documents for whatever reason, if you're interested, you can open any of these sections and see what the actual tax form looks like. Because you submit electronically, again, this is just for more of an FYI. And that's really it. That's all you really need to do to submit your taxes online. It's really quick, it's really easy. Just have your tax slips ready, have your notice of assessment, start populating the information just like we did over here, and then you're ready to submit. Before finishing off the video, There was two other items that I did want to cover, and that is donation slips and medical receipts. Now, unlike the T4 slips or the T5 slips or those kind of slips, donation and medical slips are not always standardized, meaning each slip is different from the next based on whoever the vendor providing the slip is. But in general, how do they work? So let's say if you have a donation slip, you would go back into this box and search for donations. And did you donate gifts? Was it a political contribution? Did you give a gift of a capital property? If you just made a cash donation to a charity, this is the option you would select. And this is what the form looks like. So what kind of, who was the donation made to? Charity, museum, athletic association, University outside of Canada, etc. So let's say you just donate to a charity, and then you just put in the name of the charity. For example, let's say it was Red Cross. Then you just simply enter the amount you donated based on your tax slip. $100, $500, whatever the amount is. So in this case, let's just do $100. And notice how my tax refund goes up by $20 because of my $100 contribution. And if you have other donations, just keep adding in lines until you've gone through all your donation slips. And if you want to delete rows, just go ahead and remove empty rows. They'll ask you two more questions. Do you have any unused donations and gifts to carry forward from prior year? Similar to the tuition credit, if you can't use the credit this year to offset your income, you can carry it forward. So just select yes and no based on if you have contributions from prior years that you're going to use this year. And if you donate a capital property, then again, yes or no based on your situation. The last piece is medical. Again, just search for medical and you'll see medical expenses. It will ask you, who are these medical expenses for? So just punch in the name. Who is this? This is me. And you can also use this if you have a spouse, if you have children, other dependents. You can again use the same form to fill out all the information so that way it's combined. In this case, it's going to be me and my partner. And the type of expenses can be, for example, let's say you purchase glasses or prescription drugs that your work plan didn't cover. So something like that you can enter. If you're not sure what type of eligible medical expenses you can claim, there is a link here and you can search them. For example, let's say it's for glasses. Then if you had a pocket, so I'm going to search vision, vision devices, and notice it says including eyeglasses, prescription needed. So I'm going to put for glasses, not covered by work plan. This is my regular expense, and let's say I had to pay $40. There you go. Now, medical expenses work a little bit differently than donation, where it's that there's a limit. Now, there is a limit to how much you can claim on medical expenses. It's 3% of your net income, or this cap of $2,397. If you're putting an amount in here and notice your refund isn't changing, that's because it doesn't meet that 3% rule. So for example, if this was $4,000, all of a sudden I see a change because now this expense is above the 3% limit. And that's how medical and donation expenses work. So I really hope you found this video helpful and it makes doing your own taxes less daunting and less of a headache. You can just use this video as a guide and again, do what I just did. Take your slips, match the boxes, enter the data. It's just that easy. I have links to promo codes in the description below for various discounts and sign-up bonuses. This directly helps support the channel so I can continue making content like this. So please do check them out. If you have any questions for me, feedback on this video, or maybe ideas on future content, leave them in the comments below. And while you're at it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That's it for this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.